hear me better?
No.
Do I need to be close enough?
Try getting really close.
How? Okay, that's fine, a happy medium here. All right, we ready, Marika? Okay, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the roll call, please?
Council President Michelle Sauer.
Here.
Councilperson Joseph Day.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zell.
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Here.
Also present, Mayor Valerie Lear. City Treasurer Jim Wisman. Building Official Jeff Bergstrom. City Solicitor Max Walton. Chief Rick Payne. City Planner Chris Waters.
Thank you. Okay, as usual, the first item on the agenda is minutes. We have several sets of minutes. The first from the meeting from Tuesday, April 9th. It was a public hearing, you know. I think that was July 9th, because we had that public hearing right before the meeting last month, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so we need a correction that that's Tuesday, July 9th, not April. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the public meeting? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. The next set is the minutes of the regular meeting on that same date, Tuesday, July 9th. Does anyone have any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Council President, I do have one
Okay.
correction in the minutes. In respect to page 3 of the Tuesday, July 9th. The second point, in respect to Delaware Today and Battery Park, I neglected to acknowledge the contributions of John Antonio and Antonio Lawn Care Company. And they need to be recognized for their contributions that beautify Battery Park.
Well, but you didn't say that at the meeting, right?
I did not.
So I don't know that we can add something that wasn't part of the meeting to the
Okay.
minutes.
Okay,
So you could.
I'll add it into the minutes for today.
Okay, thank you. I have one minor spelling correction on page 5, under business from the mayor, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet dot, Emmanuel Church. I know there's two spellings of Emmanuel, but the church spells it with an I, not with an E. So it's I-M-M. Anyone else have any corrections or additions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes to the July 9th meeting as amended?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so they are approved. And finally, there was a special meeting on Wednesday, July 31st, in the executive session. Are there any additions or corrections to that meeting? To those minutes, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve,
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Mr. Wisman, treasurer's report.
Yes, ma'am. As of July 31st, which is the first month of our fiscal year, we have $10,728,800 in the bank accounts. And that is unrestricted funds of $8,572,230, and restricted funds $2,156,000. Now, and what's interesting is that we're into the first month of the fiscal year, and most of our revenues come in the first quarter, but not the first month. Our monthly cash receipts for July is $468,597. Our budget will be $7 million for the year, so we're going to be getting a lot of money in the first quarter of this year. The expenditures, our expenditures are $801,000, And again, the total for the year will be 7 million. So right now, the month is not representative of the year itself.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Westman? All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted and subject to audit? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The treasurer's report is approved. Thank you, Mr. Westman. Okay, and reports from staff. Ms. Tantillo?
Yes, so I have an update on the floating pier. The contractor went out and was on site on August 2nd and 5th. They put a test pile into the water and collected some data, which they're assessing to determine the size of the piles that they will need to build the pier. They are evaluating that information as we speak and will be continuing the process and the plans to build in the next month. I'll have an update for you hopefully at the next meeting, and hopefully we'll be in construction by that point. The code officer position has been reposted. If you know anyone who's interested, please encourage them to apply. The zoning project for the website that the UG students have been working on has begun. The website is under construction. You can take a look at the beginnings of it under the zoning section of the website. The projects that we have received notice of receipt for bond bill funds are being prepared to go to bid, and we'll have an update at the next meeting. And those were the construction projects for the streets and the curbs throughout the city. Just a reminder, tax bills were mailed in July. A 2% discount will be applied to bills paid by August 30th, and bills are due by September 30th. We are continuing to work on additional grant applications, including the ORPT grant and a bike council grant. At the July 22nd Planning Commission meeting, the commission asked our city planner, Mr. Rogers, to look into ADUs or accessory dwelling units. So we're going to go ahead and continue researching that, and we'll have more information to the Planning Commission, which that data may come to you as well. And the Delmarva gas line project continues on 3rd and 4th Streets, and will hopefully be wrapped up sometime in the fall. And letters will be going out to all residents regarding the screens for the meters within the next month or so.
Thank you. Chief McCabe?
Good evening. I do have a handful of things to talk about tonight, so I wanted to start with our monthly report. It's posted on the website. I don't know if it made it to the council agenda.
Email.
I wanted to cover a few things on that report before I get started on some highlights. With the calls for service and the time response, there's a few in there that may look disturbing. I just wanted to give an explanation on some of the outliers. We did have 2 carjackings, but neither of them were in the city. We assisted other agencies. So that time, the time that it took us to get there was more than likely us just not calling out on scene when we got there. And then the other one was a robbery with weapons that took 25 minutes. Again, that was an incident on the Markel Trail that we went to, responded, we checked the area, but we just didn't notify the dispatcher, so they never hit the stop button on the clock, as it were. So we were there very quickly, is my point. We did make some significant arrests this past month. I think you may recall, we had a bit of a trend over the last few months with some thefts of and from motor vehicles. All in all, I think we had 4 cars stolen, and then property taken from a handful of others. It's been a while since we've experienced a crime trend, so it's helpful to kind of discuss how we identify it and really how we end up putting an end to it. And typically, it starts with, obviously, somebody reporting the incident, right? So in cases where things are stolen from cars, I would say half the victims actually report that. So in the absence of having that data, we don't necessarily know whether or not we have a crime trend. Thefts from motor vehicle typically are associated with trends. Nobody breaks into just one car and then moves along. So it's typically walking up and down, pulling on car door handles, and if they open, they go in and they look for what they're looking for. So the trick to the trend is to identify it and then to start communicating. And one of the good things that with this was that our folks were communicating early at the patrol level. So the patrol supervisor notified them that he recognized the trend and started the direct patrol. To the point where it got to our patrol officers thought they may have identified somebody, and this was because of a video that one of our residents shared with us. And then that helped to kind of step up the patrol level. So the night after the squad met and talked about how they wanted to direct their patrol, they stopped the vehicle for operating with no headlights. And that ended up being a freshly stolen car with the suspects that had done all the other thefts. So our detectives came in, our patrol officers, and after a couple of hours, they were able to link all of these suspects with every one of the crimes in the trend. So it was a really good job by both our patrol guys and CIU. Most importantly, it was with the help of our residents, again, with video that was supplied, the reports that were made, the detail of the reports, time frames are big. And all of that helped us kind of identify a way to patrol. You could argue that it was luck, but when you're out looking and you recognize that there's a problem and you take enforcement action, even on something as simple as an equipment violation, good things can happen. So I wanted to bring that up. We also, I think I reported a burglary at one of our businesses in River Plaza last month. Our detectives worked on that, developed some suspects from downstate. They executed a few search warrants that involved a handful of agencies, Laurel PD, I believe, the Delaware State Police, and I believe another agency in Kent County. They recovered some evidence that linked the suspects to our burglary and then several other burglaries that had the same MO, and we were able to make some arrests and clear that one as well. This past month, several of our officers worked with DENREC and then University of Delaware. I'm going to mess this up, but it's the Delaware. It's an organization that works with adults that have autism, and the idea was for some of those that are on the spectrum that want to drive or are thinking about getting their license. It gives them an opportunity to interact with us, to get a feel for what it's like if, for some reason, we were to turn our lights on behind them, how they should act, what they should expect from us, what we should look for as identifiers so that we know how to address the operator. So it was very, very hot, but it was very, very successful. This was done at Lumps Pond, and everybody involved did a really good job. So we got a lot of positive feedback, and I think this may turn into something that we do more than once a year. Hopefully, in the fall, we can turn it into like a family event kind of thing. So it was very successful. We are again partnering with CCD, as you well know. They have some funding for Project Alert. I've talked to their executive director, and he and I are going to work together to get trained on how to train folks. So this Project Alert, if you remember your days from DARE, it's similar to that. It's gotten a little bit of a facelift. So, and this is, from what I understand, this is a new project that David found. So, just to give you a quick heads up, it's an 11-week program. He and I are going to go in and train or teach with these kids. And just to give you kind of an overview of what the program looks like, we're going to work with the library. I think we're working in the library. And our sessions will look something like this. Week 1, we introduce to the project. Week 2, we talk about consequences of nicotine and marijuana. Then we move through drinking alcohol, pressures, social pressures to use substances, resisting internal and external pressures. So if it sounds like DARE, there's a little bit of that to it. And then we go to the last session, which are benefits of not using drugs. So the idea is to, again, intervene while our kids are younger, to give them a little background. Our goal too after this is we're hopefully want to align with LEADS, which is a bigger company. It's Law Enforcement Against Drugs. I talked to one of their vice presidents the other day, and we hope to create an alliance with some funding that would be a much more robust program where we'd be able to train not just members of CCD or our officers, but members of the community that want to engage in this. Our goal is to have somebody in every colonial school that our kids attend, so that we can have this kind of a curriculum. And that starts, I believe, Project Alert starts in the middle of September. We have, I hope to have an email sent out within the next day or two, but we have successfully put together our police advisory board. I want to thank Councilperson Mataway for his help. We have identified all of the members. They've individually agreed, so now our game plan is to get some messaging out to them as a whole, to get some guidelines. The accountability board will be called the Eugene Petty Police Accountability Board. And I am very honored that his daughter Consuela has agreed to chair it in the beginning. So we look forward to our first meeting sometime in September. I'm working with some other agencies that are developing bylaws and rules and stuff like that. So our goal is at the first meeting to kind of establish, maybe the makeup of the committee. The state law, this committee was formed from House Bill 205 and 206, what we've talked about in the past. So there is a generic outline to what this committee should look like and how it should operate. Part of it is 20 hours of training. So in the absence of agenda, we can use these meetings to train. When it's all said and done, I anticipate quarterly meetings, but at the beginning, we're hoping to maybe have monthly meetings. We're working on a curriculum to get to that training. It's going to start with some ride-alongs. That counts for training. So a 4-hour ride-along is going to take a big chunk out of the 20 hours. The curriculum is going to look very similar to a Citizens Police Academy. The initial training is going to deal with, it's very important that we establish with this committee how we got to this point. I've already received some really interesting questions from some of the members as to, are there any out there now that we can mirror? There are some that we can mirror, there are some we will not mirror. And that's a very important factor here because there is still a lot of negative messaging that's going around this legislation. And we are increasingly getting a little bit more vocal about the negative messaging associated with House Bill 205 and 206. You'll remember 205 addressed Leover and changed it to another name. And then 206 is where this advisory committee became relevant. The other significant factor to this legislation that is consistently overlooked, and I appreciate the fact that we're going to be recognized for this tonight, but it's the mandatory accreditation factor to all of this. And I know I've talked about this ad nauseum, but we continue. There was another article recently written from ODS that basically said that these bills were worthless and that there's still a ton of police misconduct. So our answer to that is we are going to start responding to this a little bit differently than we have been. We are very unique because this city not only appreciates the relationship we have, but you've made a significant investment in keeping this group together. And not all agencies have that luck. And this type of language has a direct connection to lack of interest in this profession. And I would just encourage folks that listen to this, especially now that it's voting season, to listen to what you're hearing from some of these folks about some of the anti-police messaging. Look for facts. Very rarely are you confronted with facts. We're repeating the same, and I quote this very liberally, quote unquote, police misconduct. A lot of this is uncomfortable, that they're uncomfortable with some of the maybe force issues they see. But I would encourage people not to listen to anybody that says that in the interest of public trust. Because if they were interested in public trust, we would be talking about these programs that we talk about every month. The relationships that we're building with the nonprofit groups and our residents, and it's not happening. So, and it has a direct impact on the interest in policing. So, as we get closer to the election season, I thank you for remaining engaged with your state legislature. We are very lucky with the 4 that we have that understand what we're doing here. So, but not every jurisdiction has the luxury that we do. So, I'll get off my soapbox, but I will say that we're lucky here, but not all the agencies in the state are. And we are very lucky that we've got funding for this massive recruitment campaign that we're going to kick off. And part of that is going to be some pushback with messaging. So any help we can get, because we don't have the platform in the state to deliver that messaging. So it's going to come from us, and we would appreciate that kind of support. Last but not least, I think I said an invite to the 20th for Officer Plotz. We're gonna swear him in at the new sheriff's house. They graciously offered their spot. I invited a lot of retired guys to join just so they can take a walk down memory lane. Typically, a swearing in is informal, but this one's gonna be a little bit more formal. And then he graduates on the 22nd, and we'll be at 17. So thank you all.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief from council?
I do have a question. Battery Park, the bathrooms, do you have any statistics on, issues that are there, any kind of destruction to the bathrooms? I've heard there's been issues there. Has anything been reported? Do you have any statistics on that situation?
So I can tell you that I'm working on that now. We have a database that I think might be able to help us identify specific calls to that area. We just have to go through it because if it's mentioned, well, basically it's a keyword search, right? So we may find battery park and report, but it could be that, you know, it may not have anything to do with what we're looking into. But I do know, just from my own personal experience, that I don't know that some of the things that are happening are getting reported to us all the time. And going back to what we talked about with the trend, you know, the lack of data kind of, you know, plays a factor in how we, you know, how we address things. I will say that we are in that park, especially at night, right? I mean, that is part of our patrol. We drive through it when we can. We get out and walk when we can. If there's a car parked, you know, sometimes we'll shoot away, sometimes we'll stop and find out who's in it. So, you know, we're there, but I'm working on that data to see exactly to what extent those problems are.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bergstrom, you have it? Okay. Okay, council communications, we'll start with Mr. Day.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things. As you can see, the AV equipment is all in, it's all functioning. Antonina and I met the representative from VersaLine out here last week just to make sure and went over everything. I think everything's good and functioning. So for now, that project's completed. I'd also like to thank John and Fee and everybody else who is involved in the farmers market on the green. I've made it up there most weeks. It is fabulous. And again, thank you so much for bringing that to the city. I've been talking to the city administrator. We are reviewing the quote and the contract for the band shell. Hopefully we can get the contract cleared through our attorney and get that the deposit placed so we can get that ordered in the next few weeks. At the last meeting, Miss Josie Roy attended the meeting and had an issue with the tree out in front of Mount Salem United Methodist. Brian Mattaway and I both talked to her and visited the site, but I'd also like to thank Public Works and Antonina for getting the tree trimmed back so that it wasn't on the historical marker that was there. In our comp plan annual report, there is a link to the Downtown Development District information, the Downtown Development District annual plan. And I was surprised because in that plan, I seen that there was 12 projects from the city of Newcastle that actually over the years have gotten the Downtown Development District money. So I didn't realize that that's how many projects we had, but it would be nice to see them, you know what I mean, in front of council, or at least come to council so that we know that that's, I wasn't sure if there was more than 1 or 2 projects that were using that. So it is nice to see. The only other thing that I did have one concern with the budget. It looks like just after the first month, we've already used 21% of the money allocated for the hack architect. And I just want to make sure that we keep an eye on that. It seems like a lot after the first month. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Zell?
I'll be brief. We had a dog park survey put out there. There's quite a few people that filled that out. We're gonna be getting that information, reviewing it, and giving a summary at the next meeting and seeing where we're going to proceed. We had an alternate site. The original site that we were looking at was at the Hermitage, but there's an alternate site on Chestnut down from 4th, which is, I think it's bus parking area that we have right now. That is an area that we could be using for a dog park. we're looking to get the results from the survey to see what the community is looking to do.
Thank you. Mr. Mattingly.
Thank you, Council President. Just wanted to go over a couple community highlights. On July the 24th, I had the pleasure of attending virtually the reaccreditation ceremony. I know it's going to be addressed later on in the meeting, but I did want to say how much I appreciate the opportunity to participate virtually in respect to the men and women that protect and serve us here in the city of Newcastle. Our police force, they're presently hiring. It's a good job and it's a noble profession. Should you or anyone you know be interested in being a first responder and serving the city we all love, please check out their website for the job posting. Last week, New Orleans reopened as a result of the fire that they had with a lot of fanfare. The Historical Society and the Newcastle Courthouse are continuing a series with one's actually going on today, another one is coming up on Thursday at 7 p.m. I had the pleasure of attending last week. Last Thursday, I, along with Council President and City Administrator Tintillo, had the joy of working the city's booth at the Best of Delaware event at the Chase Center in respect to Battery Park's recognition. And to that point, Battery Park would not be what it is today without the contributions of John Antonio and his lawn care service. So I would like to publicly acknowledge them for the great job they do throughout the year. And then finally, September the 7th, the Belenka Airfield Museum will host an antique truck show from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Thank you, Council President.
And what date was that at the airfield?
September the 7th.
Okay. Okay, business from the mayor.
I'm sure all of us are thankful for the break in the weather, especially those of us who work outside. It's been difficult. Just a couple quick things here. National Night Out, as you know, we made a call to postpone the event. It will be held on October 1st. I'd like to thank the generosity of the sponsors, the Newcastle Farmers Market, the Weekly, Creedon Griffith Funeral Services, Newcastle Insurance, TransPlus, and the St. Anthony's Club. And they are really helping to make the event a good thing. And again, October 1st, 6 to 8 a.m. Turn the Town Teal on August 28th at 10:30 in front of the Town Hall. I invite everyone to come assist in putting up a teal ribbon. If you have somebody in your family maybe that has suffered from ovarian cancer and you'd like to hang a ribbon for them, please join us. It's 10:30 in front of Town Hall. There's a lot of things that we've done, or I've done, and the city council's already mentioned them, so I'm not gonna repeat these. But I would like to read the following proclamation. In recognition of September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Newcastle, and in support of Turn the Town's Teal ongoing awareness campaign. Whereas the city of Newcastle would like to recognize the Turn the Town's Teal awareness and research campaign, now in their 18th successful year of raising awareness of ovarian cancer and its often silent symptoms. And whereas ovarian cancer is often referred to as the silent disease, as there's no early detection test for ovarian cancer, and its symptoms are often vague and subtle. And whereas if detected in the early stages, the survival rate for ovarian cancer is 90 to 95%, yet the 5-year survival rate after detection of advanced disease is only 28%, making this early detection awareness campaign essential. And whereas the city of Newcastle will participate in Turn the Town's Teal campaign with teal ribbons adorning downtown structures and light poles. Now therefore be it proclaimed that on this 13th day of August, 2024, the city of Newcastle declares September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Newcastle and supports the Turn the Town's Teal Awareness and Research campaign. At this time, I'd like to invite John Reeves to come forward and give a brief report on outreach coordinator for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank everybody who's come to the Saturday market as well. I wanted to we're doing other activities as far as outreach, but the Saturday market I think is a good model because I want to talk a little bit about what that is besides a nice place to come and buy tomatoes, bread, and stuff like that. It is an example of doing more weekly events or more frequent small events, throughout the year because we think that fits better with both the town flow as well as the businesses in town rather than one kind of huge event, every 3 months or something like that. So, for example, if you say 300 or 400 people a week, this is what we're kind of getting now. That's almost 10,000 people a year if we just look at this, Saturday market. But it's distributed every week so people can go to the restaurants, they can go to the businesses and shops. It's much more manageable. And it's also a good example of leveraging it for social media. So we've developed a Newcastle Saturday Market Facebook page. It now has a reach of 54,000 people with an engagement of about 31,000. That's remarkable in a couple of ways. One, it's from a standing start. It's a really big, lift, but also it's almost a 50% engagement. 5% engagement is pretty good on Facebook. It's a 50% engagement. So people are really engaging with the town as well as with the event. And as you know, we have a table on the green where we give out visitor information. We give out information on community events and community organizations. We're getting more community organizations involved in that. And more and more people are coming and asking for information about the town when they come. So as I said, a good model going forward for the kind of events that we want to incubate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Danaway, do you have the proclamation? Okay. The proclamation regarding St. Anthony's and their 100th anniversary.
Yes, so I think we have some representatives from the community, St. Anthony's and St. Peter's. If you're inclined, would you like to meet me over by the podium?
Don't be shy.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the entire City Council for unanimously going forward with this proclamation. I would also like to thank Councilperson Day for immediately seconding this effort. I would like to thank Council President for allowing me to facilitate the reading of this proclamation. And finally, I would like to thank Mayor Valerie Leary and City Administrator Tintillo for their assistance in the writing of this worthy proclamation. So the City of Newcastle is known throughout the state for our position in history. It's also known throughout the country and in some pockets of the world. But it's also very important for us to remember locally what history and traditions are carried forward. History has a good way of letting us know what happened in the past and gives us a preview into how we can move forward. And this proclamation speaks to that. In recognition of 100 years centennial of the St. Anthony's procession led by St. Peter's Parish, St. Anthony's Society, and Italian residents of the City of Newcastle. Whereas St. Anthony of Padua is a venerated historical figure in the Holy Catholic Church, known for his passion, knowledge, enthusiasm, and aid to others. And whereas in 1924, a group of visionary Newcastleians set in motion an annual event that embodies heritage, tradition, and service. And whereas St. Anthony's Society, in partnership with St. Peter's Catholic Church, parishioners, neighbors, and friends celebrated its 100th year centennial St. Anthony's procession through the City of Newcastle on June the 9th, 2024 at 12:30 p.m. And whereas the City of Newcastle recognizes that longevity requires hard work, purpose, commitment, evolution, and faith, and wishes to extend its sincere good tidings and congratulations on this monumental anniversary. And whereas the City of Newcastle is appreciative of the contributions and sacrifices made by Italian immigrants and their descendants locally, which continue to this day. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City of Newcastle honors and celebrates this significant milestone and extends its heartfelt gratitude to all who have contributed to the preservation and celebration of this rich cultural heritage. Signed, Valerie Leary, Mayor of Newcastle. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Dominic Albini, he's a dignitary of St. Anthony Society and a lifelong Castilian. Would you like to say anything, sir?
Yeah, just thank you very much. I mean, we had a little miscommunication. We couldn't get some of our older personnel out here, but who we were hoping to receive it, but they'll definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
And we'll come to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My report is perhaps a little briefer tonight. I'd like to start by recognizing and thanking Dr. Joanne Viola for her many years of service on the Board of Health. She has stepped down after being probably the lone physician in town for a while, and therefore, taking that role on the Board of Health and being very helpful to the whole community. The second thing is I want to congratulate our newest police officer, Thomas Plotz, who'll be, as the chief mentioned, will be sworn in on Tuesday and graduate from the academy on Thursday. So I hope if we run into him on the street, we'll welcome him to Newcastle. And finally, you may remember that it's been sort of dragging out for a while and kept getting postponed, but there is still a plan to work to improve the rail safety at the railroad crossing on Delaware Street. We had a meeting today with a pretty big group. We had the chief of police, the chief of the fire company, the mayor, Ms. Tantillo, Mr. Bergstrom, representatives from the municipal services, Mr. Rogers, our planner, and myself met with some DelDOT representatives and the engineer responsible for the program, or for the plans, I mean. It was delayed for a multitude of reasons, including DelDOT funding constraints, but it's finally starting to move forward again. So we don't have any final information about when things are gonna actually get started, but it looks like it's moving along, and we hope to have more information in the coming months. So that's all I have for tonight. The next item is public comments. The usual rule, come to the podium, sign in, state your name, and you have 3 minutes. That's after me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that is next.
Yeah.
My mistake, back up. Representative from the fire company, or Chief Mayuski, thank you for catching me.
Good evening, everyone. Council, everybody should have their July packet as prepared by Captain Moore. For some statistics, we have 183 EMS incidents for the month of July and 130 fire rescue incidents for a combined total of 313 incidents for the month. Some highlights through that, we had 2 sheds that were up against each other in adjoining properties catch on fire on Hewlett Avenue in the overnight hours a few weeks ago. And then we had a rollover crash on Basin Road in the area of Notre Dame Avenue. Both were handled by Goodwill and our mutual aid partners. In addition, creeping into the month of August, but because it just happened, we had some pretty significant flooding responses with the Swift Water Rescue Team throughout Newcastle County, specifically Delaware City. Crews were on site and assisted in evacuating, I believe it was 16 residents and multiple animals from flooded homes. We worked in conjunction with Newcastle City Police and Public Works for the River Road closure over the weekend. Luckily, that did not turn out to be as bad as we had thought it was going to be originally with the forecast, so we were able to open that up pretty quickly. And finally, it's not in your packet, but something I wanted to report on. It was in the weekly, I think 2 weeks ago now. The fire company was approached early in the spring, or I guess late in the spring, by a gentleman who was pursuing his Eagle Scout. And he was looking for some type of community service project to help out with. Captain Scheffler, in conjunction with the trustees, had been working to identify all the benches in Battery Park, because there are quite a few of them, and if you call and say, I'm on a bench by the river, thanks, that narrows it down to about 2 miles. We wanted to find a better way to do that, make sure that our responses were to the correct area as soon as possible. So this gentleman took under the project of repairing, painting, and then numbering benches that needed them. Let me say this. Repairing benches that needed it, and then numbering all the benches between Delaware Street and the boat ramp. And then we'll be picking up with numbering the rest of the benches from the boat ramp south to the end of the trail. So this will allow us that if you're experiencing a medical emergency on the park, if you're out running or whatever, you sit down and you say, you have to call 911, you can say, I'm on bench number X, and we will know immediately where you are. If you tell the 911 operator that, we'll be able to pinpoint your location to a very exact position almost immediately. So that's something that we were happy to help with, and happy to help that gentleman's help with. I apologize, I forget his name. But yeah, so that was in both in conjunction of a public safety project and helping him earn his Eagle Scout. So if there's no questions from the council, that's all I have.
Questions?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for coming. Okay, now, public comments, sorry. Yes, the usual, sign in, state your name, and you have 3 minutes, and the timer is here on the table.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I am Pat Mallingham from 222 Chestnut Street. I am very proud of our mayor and the city council about recognizing the month of September as the recognition of ovarian cancer. What I would say is, it is a very difficult diagnosis for any physician, especially it can happen in early age, as early as 25, 30. So what I am saying is, to diagnose ovarian cancer early, we have to start doing what is called an ultrasound as early as 30, 35, especially if there is a family history of ovarian cancer. We should start screening female members of the family for ovarian cancer. The reason I am saying is, being a father and my wife, we had 3 children, so we had a lady babysitting for us. Teresa was a fantastic babysitter. She was with us for 25 years. I had all the necessary insurance, life insurance on her too. And she had one of the very prominent OB/GYN doctor as a doctor. He will see her every 2 or 3 years and will say, Teresa is a virgin, so she cannot have a cancer. 3 years after his statement, she had abdominal pain. So the symptoms come very late in ovarian cancer until it becomes very big. So eventually she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and Teresa died at a young age of 58. So this is a very important bad disease, and I'm sure we have to communicate with the females to make sure even any bad symptoms or any fullness on one side of your lower abdomen, they have to get to see a doctor. Most of the time, like what I said, a prominent OB/GYN doctor said she is a virgin, she is not going to have any cancer. One more thing about the city, I know I may be hitting 3 myths, is that I don't know whether the city council and mayor has any form of decision-making about cancellation of books. I am a son of a teacher. My mother wanted me to be a doctor. On 9th grade only she asked me to be a doctor. I was reading geography, history, English literature. Yeah, sorry. So what I am saying is there should be no decision making by politicians to cancel books by any chance. Thank you all very much. That's my statement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Ed.
Okay.
Good evening, council and fellow residents. First, I'd like to say, Chief, that's an amazing, amazing move. Who would have thought? But just in doing that, could easily save some lives. So whoever thought of it, if it was you, kudos. Well, I'll give you credit anyway. I'd like to also congratulate the appointees for tonight that are going to be appointed. Angel, Tim, Tamara, Tish, and Jameli for their positions. And also, Mr. Day, I'd like to thank you for getting the whole package, audio and visual, together, because I think it does make a difference and will continue to make a difference for a bunch of years. One comment as far as tables and benches for the park. Here we are in August. I started in February, March, April, May, saying, where are they? When are they going to be put out? They were taken back during COVID. I get it, but they should have been out in the early part of the season. So there's no real excuse for that. Next issue is with postponing September, pushing September's council meeting off. I remember going on 4 or 5 years ago was discussed that council people can have, I think, up to 3 absences. There's no way that I believe that the council meeting should be pushed off. Next, as far as the public comments, freedom of speech, I feel that the city is run by the few for the many. For an example, I attended a meeting last week, couldn't make public comments. It didn't fit the format that they had, and the meeting is still not posted up there to hear my comment as far as objecting to it. I put in will put in a complaint, have put in a FOIA request, and it will be forwarded to the Public Integrity of Department of Justice. The days of freewheeling it, doing what you want, they're done. They're done. It's just, there's no excuse for it. As far as the Resiliency Committee, again, I just feel no results. I think it should be suspended upon future connections and confirmations of things coming up. Lastly, Council President, I want to thank you for the time that you gave me. It was greatly appreciated, and hopefully the couple pages of notes will see some changes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Anita Bruce. I'm a youth leader at First Baptist Church here on Basin Road. First called me to open up a youth center. I told my pastor about it. He called me in the office. He told me he wanted me to have this youth center at his church. It's not written in stone, so we don't know. But, you know, what I do know is that the youths are very important in our future. And, I read a lot of statistics. I did a lot of research on Newcastle, the city of Newcastle. You know, we have been going through some trying times throughout the years. I know that, according to the Department of Juvenile Justice, through the age of 15 to 17, 54% of kids at that age, 54% of them have been arrested throughout the years from COVID to now. And so I think opening up a youth center is very promising. But I'm saying this because it's just me right now. I have people that are interested in helping, but I don't really have any support. I don't have support. So I don't really know, other than my pastor and my youth leader, because my youth pastor, I don't really know who else to go to about this. This is a very promising guy. You know, he told me to do something with after-school programs for them, and even with the police officer was saying, something like there for them once a year. He's gonna bring in a program called EPIC. Very, very exciting program. They do events and stuff, and so this is just something that came to mind, and I think really that'll be a success in this city. So that's my public comment. That's all I have to say. If anybody could come to me afterwards, or if I can come to anybody and you can give me support on it, I would greatly appreciate it. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments. Didn't catch your last name.
Bruce.
Ms. Bruce, thank you for your comments. I know you said you're here locally at First Baptist. Just another public service announcement. If you have any youth at your church who are in 7th grade, or will be going to 7th grade, that program that Chief was talking about is going to be targeted toward that age group. And if they live here in the city of Newcastle, that's a program they can certainly become a part of to help deter some negative behaviors.
Okay.
So we can certainly take down your contact information.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Me?
David Scott Connell, I was born December 17th, 1963. At that time, the house that I owned, paying mortgage on, was part of my life. It's been part of my life my entire life. It was part of my life before I was born. Now it has a supersized firebomb attached to it, and on the roof it has a flamethrower attached to my roof. So it's been turned into a death trap by one of your employees, and he knows what he did. So all kinds of things I can say at this point. I have 2 questions. Is there anybody from the Attorney General's office here? Is anybody from the State Fire Marshal's here? Fire Marshal's office here? No. Well, that settles that question I had, whether it actually exists or not, a firebomb attached to my house. Obviously it does, I knew that. It's one of my expertise, construction work. Question being, what's gonna be done about it? They're your employees, young lady. What's gonna be done? I can't see your name too far away. I have a hard time pronouncing
That's
it.
fine, I'll respond after 3 minutes.
But I just want to hear, I mean, what's gonna happen? You know, the only reason from what you said when we met back at your office, and all the letters I got back from all these lawyers across the state, I come to the realization that I've been blacklisted, a decent attorney across the state. It'd be basically career suicide to represent me. So unfortunately, I don't want to do it, I have to handle it myself. I don't want a firebomb attached to my house anymore, Jeffrey. I don't need a flamethrower on my roof anymore, Jeffrey. Huh? You think it's funny? It's jeopardizing the safety of every man, woman, and child's life on 2 entire city blocks because you want to make money? Apparently so, it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't. So what's going to be done about it?
I'm gonna remain homeless, come here every month, whine, snow, bitch, moan, complain. I mean, what's gonna be done about it? There's been 2 attempts on my life, just concerning this. That's another thing. Do I fear for my life living here in the city of Newcastle? Yes, I have since 2003, which was the first attack. And ever since then, this police department's been used as a hammer any and every given opportunity to beat on because of my political activities and my choice of religion. That's a separate subject altogether. So yes, I fear living here in the city of Newcastle, and now I have a firebomb attachment on my house that renders it completely useless for human habitation. And it puts a danger to every man, woman, and child on that city block, which is the 700 block of Clymer Street. Then there's another firebomb attachment on the 700 block of Center Street. So what's going to be done about it? I had to drag this out like a long, long time. I had to let everybody present exactly what their real personalities are, what their viewpoints are. So, I got 5 seconds left. You're just going to ignore it? Oh, wait.
Well, since I talked into the microphone, okay. Rod Miller, East Third Street. Yeah, I was curious when I saw that there's gonna be discussion tonight about some people complained about speeding on East Third and East Fourth. I'm just wondering, is anybody in the room tonight that generated this discussion? Okay, I was hoping there would be. Yeah, it just caught my attention because about 7 years ago, that was actually the first thing I think I complained about in the city, was speeding on East Third. I don't do it much anymore, and the reason, I was curious to hear what people were experiencing. But ever since they took the light out on 6 in Delaware, I don't really see it anymore on East Third, and I have to believe the reason is because there's no advantage. I never saw the advantage in the first place. It blew my mind that people are zooming down a narrow one-way street with cars parked on both sides, and people were telling me, oh, they're trying to avoid waiting for a couple minutes at the light. Well, they don't do that anymore. So, I really don't see it that much. But I was going to tell any of those folks who obviously didn't show up tonight, and I'm real curious to hear your discussion tonight, because maybe you're going to explain what they were saying. I do remember, though, what had happened back at that time, because I wasn't the only one. I was probably one of the more vocal ones. But the city, if I recall correctly, purchased a temporary speed bump at that time, and I felt kind of responsible for it. But I never push speed bumps. I don't like them any more than anybody else does. But I'm also curious because I see them everywhere. We're like the only city that doesn't have them. And again, I'm not advocating them. I don't like them either. But as I recall, the police chief and the emergency squads in town were against them. They said it maybe inhibited them because they have expensive equipment on their vehicles. They were afraid of damaging, which, okay, that makes sense. But I'm just wondering, other cities have that as well, right? I mean, I go in a lot of very high-end neighborhoods in North Wilmington, and they all have them, and they have permanent ones, okay? So I would rather we had other means, to deter speeding besides the speed bumps, but I'd like to know what happened to the one that we bought, because I never quite understood that. As I recall, you were going to test it out somewhere, I don't know, Washington Street or somewhere, and I don't know whatever happened to it, if you still have it, but I think the word was that you were going to try to just test it out and see how it went, but I never heard any results from that. But anyway, I'm disappointed that people didn't show up that were complaining, because I wanted to hear what they had to say, but maybe when you guys discuss it tonight, you can tell us, because I was not aware that it was a problem on East 4th. Okay? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, on East 3rd, it's really not that much of an issue anymore, but maybe I'm wrong. Somebody obviously, thought otherwise. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say.
Mr. Miller, that was put on 8th Street. The speed bump was put on 8th Street.
On 8th? Okay. Where is it? Is it still around?
It's still there today.
Oh, it is? Okay. It shows how many times I go to 8th Street.
Okay, anyone else have a comment?
Can I have a second time?
Normally just one per meeting, Dr. Patton.
I have something for concern very much.
Well, maybe you should have done that the first time, but thank you, maybe next month.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? Okay, the next item is a resolution to recognize the, City of Police Department's full reaccreditation. So I will read the resolution, 2024-32. A resolution to recognize the City of Newcastle Police Department's full reaccreditation through the Delaware Police Accreditation Committee. Whereas the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission was created through the Delaware Police Chiefs Council to approve the delivery of police services to Delaware citizens. And whereas the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission is responsible for providing policy-level direction and drafting and implementing state-level police accreditation standards. Whereas the statewide police accreditation program develops standards to ensure consistency of police operation, promotes cooperation of police agencies in addressing statewide accreditation needs in Delaware, and provides recommendations to the Governor and Delaware General Assembly when appropriate concerning issues related to state-level police accreditation standards in Delaware. And whereas the City of Newcastle Police Department was first accredited in 2020 through the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission, known as DPAC, meeting the 108 standards necessary to become accredited. And whereas law enforcement agencies must seek reaccreditation through the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission every 3 years. And whereas the City of Newcastle Police Department sought reaccreditation in 2024 and was awarded reaccreditation in July of 2024 through a unanimous vote of the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission, again meeting the 108 standards necessary to become accredited. And whereas the accreditation and reaccreditation processes are lengthy and require a complete review of policies, proof of following policies, and meeting standards, and compliance with police officer standards and training commission standards in order to retain accreditation, there now therefore be it resolved that the City of Newcastle would like to recognize and thank the City of Newcastle Police Department for their hard work and dedication to not only serving the community, but to maintaining and obtaining reaccreditation after 3 years, which will allow the agency to increase their ability to prevent and control crime and efficiently and effectively deliver law enforcement services to the City of Newcastle and its community. Is there any discussion on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is about a site plan for the Jack A. Markell State Route 273 Trailhead Project. It's a brief resolution. I'll read it, and then our planner, Mr. Rogers, is here with some guests to tell us about it. Whereas Foresight Associates, on behalf of the Newcastle County and the Colonial School District, has applied to the Council of Newcastle for site plan approval of the State Road 273 and Jack A. Markell Trailhead site on property known as tax parcel number 21-010.00-015 within the city limits. And whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the application at their May of 2024 meeting under the terms of the zoning ordinance and has determined that the application is in conformity with the same and has therefore recommended to the City Council that the site plan be approved. And whereas the council determines that the application meets the requirements necessary for the approval of this site plan, as shown on the attached Exhibit A, which on our new system, you all can see up here in front of you. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the application of Foresight Associates on behalf of Newcastle County and the Colonial School District for site plan approval for property known as the Jack A. Markell State Route 273 Trailhead Project, parcel number 21-010.00-015, within the city limits is shown hereby on a record plan prepared by Foresight Associates dated July 24th, 2024, and attached hereto as Exhibit A, reflecting such site plan is approved, and such plan shall be entitled to be recorded in the office of Newcastle County Recorder of Deeds. The applicant shall record the subject site plan within 45 days of the date of this resolution and inform the building official of the exact place of recordation within that office. Failure to record the site plan within the aforementioned time frame shall render this resolution null and void. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. As you can see, what you have in front of you is a site plan for the Jack Markale Trailhead, improvements to the parking lot and a turnaround for vehicles. It's a little unusual site plan submittal. When the applicant first came to us, we did determine that it was a non-residential development, and any non-residential development is required to submit a site plan. So even though it was a site plan prepared on behalf of public entities, we made them go through the site plan process. As was stated in the resolution, the site plan was reviewed and approved at the May 2024 Planning Commission meeting with conditions. The applicant has submitted evidence that those conditions have been met. Some of the conditions are the normal regulatory agency approvals. Two of the conditions involved getting input from Chief McCabe and Chief Majewski, and those they have provided evidence that they've met with those two chiefs and incorporated the comments as much as they could into the site plan. Given the nature of the site plan and the public entities and the fact that it was being sponsored by public entities, the Planning Commission had some suggestions to improve the site plan, which I believe the applicant is going to address. There was one more thing I was going to mention. So, given the nature, the fact that it's public entities involved, Ms. Tantil and I thought it would be a good idea to give the applicant the opportunity to present a little bit about the site plan, and the council president agreed. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hayes and Newcastle County Representative.
Good evening, Madam President, members of City Council. My name is Charini Patibanda. I'm here along with my colleague Marco Boyce on behalf of Newcastle County government. So back in 2021, the county won a federal grant from the EDA, which is the Economic Development Administration. That's one of the entities under the Department of Commerce. The point of the grants were to help municipalities and local areas recover from COVID in the form of outdoor recreation and tourism. So the county wanted to take opportunity to apply for a grant, and we identified the Newcastle, potential Newcastle trailhead on the Jack Markale Trail as a project. We applied with a very sketched out concept plan. Nothing was, no construction drawings had been prepared, and no formal documents had been prepared except for a very rough site plan. But the county did end up winning the grant. It's just under $1 million, and the purpose of this project is to build out a formal trailhead at the Newcastle end of the Jack Markale Trail. We have an easement with Colonial School District over this parking area, which you can kind of see on the diagram, and which Drew will explain a little bit more in detail. The point of the improvements will be to help increase usage of the Jack Markale Trail, to have people park in Newcastle and ride the trail into Wilmington, as opposed to right now, there is a very built out trailhead in Wilmington where people can easily park and then come down here, but there's no way to go in the opposite direction. So we'd like to build that out. We also are planning to incorporate public art into the trailhead, as well as along the trail as we kind of go up toward the baseball fields, so the softball fields. So we're very excited about the opportunity to get approval. It will be the final step in our approval process, and then we'll be going out to bid for the construction project elements, as well as the installation of the public art. And I will turn it over to the county hired Foresight Associates to assist us with the project, and I'll turn it over to Drew Hayes.
Thank you, Council, for considering the resolution.
I'm Andrew Hayes with Foresight Associates. We're the design consultant for the project. The project takes place on 3 areas. It takes place within the right-of-way for Delaware Street, takes place on the trail itself, which is owned by DelDOT, and takes place on the parcel owned by the Colonial School District for the Newcastle Elementary. All of the improvements for the project will be maintained and cared for by Newcastle County. On the school district property, there currently is an easement that allows the county to operate a trailhead for the purpose of public access to the trail. That's an existing easement. This project will modify the easement to make sure that these improvements are within it and maintaining the county's responsibility for maintenance of it. On the drawing that's up on the screen, the project, we'll go to another sheet that shows it in more detail, but it's linear and it parallels the frontage of Delaware Street. Above it, there's a dotted line. That line marks the portion of the property that's the easement. And the overall purpose of the project is to improve the pedestrian experience and improve it through safety improvements, aesthetic improvements, opportunities for interpretation, and access. If you could go to the second page. So the view on the bottom sort of attaches to the one on the top. And currently, the trailhead it's a little remnant stub road for when DelDOT repaired the, I guess the bridge that was used to be there. There's no provisions for turnaround. It's very, very narrow for parking. So what this project does, and we worked with the fire department, is it creates an organized way for people that get to the end to drop off or to pull out of a parking space to turn around, and it's sized for a paramedic or an ambulance is how that was sized. The other thing that it does, I'm going to start on the bottom, is you can see there's from left to right, there's a new multi-use trail. This trail takes pedestrians from the sidewalk directly on the edge of Delaware Street and brings them a little bit into the site, creates a landscaped buffer between them. And in the top, there's a V-shaped area of the trail. That's an ADA access for the bus stop. The bus stop's going to remain where it is. This will provide parking opportunities for the bus stop and ADA access. On the very left-hand side of that cul-de-sac is a plaza area. This plaza area will have benches that have long concrete blocks that emulate railroad ties that are used for seating. It has an area for a kiosk. There's a bike rack. There's a fix-it station. And then within the center of the cul-de-sac area are provisions for an art installation. The art component to the project is still being developed, and this is providing just a space for that to go. Left, there's 39 striped parking spaces and 29 unmarked. What happens is there's parking blocks there that people are just interpreting as parking spaces. There's inadequate width for parking, there's inadequate area to back up. This widens that portion of the site and creates standardized parking spaces, creates ADA spaces, and provisions for cross ramps. The crossing across Delaware Street remains as is. The existing provisions there and will remain as they are today. There's 61 parking spaces that are proposed as part of this. 3 of those are accessible spaces. On the far right-hand side, so this is the bottom of that drawing on the right, there's spaces on both sides. There's a portion of these spaces that get used by the school district themselves for staff. That's going to continue to be open for staff. And then currently, this whole wide paved area is open to the access point for the school itself.
we're narrowing that and creating a little bit more organization for the traffic to better direct traffic coming into and out of here, and its interaction with traffic from the school itself. Not shown, there's a landscaping component to this where there are planting beds that are gonna be installed. The trees underneath the power lines, we're gonna take mercy upon them and replace them. They're either dead or dying, they're in very, very poor condition. The plantings are native species. There'll be a mixture of shade trees and shrubs and herbaceous planting, again maintained by Newcastle County. So we think that overall this project will be an improvement for the gateway experience and the pedestrians themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Any questions from council for Mr. Hayes?
I just got one comment. So it seems like an awesome design. The one thing I will say is I believe the council and the MSC still has one dual head electric vehicle charger that maybe wanted to incorporate here. I think we have one left. It seems like this project would kind of fit the bill for it, but just a comment, but yes, beautiful design.
Yeah, so that allows me to touch on something that I forgot, were the discussions during the planning commission. They wanted us to interact with police and fire, and we did that. We interacted with the fire company early on for things like spacing of the bollards to be sure their ATV can fit through, and then met with the police department. And there is ample opportunity for EV stations here, and interacting, we'd be very interested in interacting with the city on that. There's plenty of power right at the front of the site as well. The project has been approved by DelDOT. We just have to go for a safety permit, and the Conservation District has approved the construction plans for stormwater. Council asked that there be a mechanism Planning Commission asked that there be a mechanism for if there's problems with the site, and there's gonna be signage with the county's phone number and contact information that if anybody has concerns with the condition or operation of it, they can call the county to have that addressed. The other item is to work with DelDOT. We're trying to encourage them to improve sort of the signage for the operation of the signalized crossing itself. It seemed to be confusing for some people. So, thank you for reminding me to add that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming here, thank you for the presentation. In light of recent happenings on the Marco Trail, has there been any thought into lighting in that area for the trailhead in respect from a safety component? That's one question that I had. And if it hasn't, if it can be implemented. And more broadly, I know you're just here at the trailhead, but that kind of goes throughout the trail, right? That sentiment. In respect to signage, wondering, I can't speak for everyone in the city, but I think we would love for an opportunity to also participate in the signage to advertise for the city of Newcastle at the trailhead and throughout the trail for buildings and other things, restaurants, et cetera, that we have here that we would love to invite people to. And then finally, if this project is approved, when do you potentially foresee shovels going in the ground and possibly being completed?
Very good question. So, as far as lighting, there are lights mounted on the utility poles that light this area now. So, additional lighting is not proposed as part of this project. However, a late request from the police department was for us to provide infrastructure to support cameras and improvements later on. As such, the plan has provisions for conduits so that the improvements don't have to be destroyed to put those safety improvements in as they come online. For signage, there's ample opportunity here for signage. I think the county would be more than open to working with with the city on that, making space available. The construction would be as soon as possible. So we fully expect this to be under construction 2025, and the county is eager to get it built. We're almost done our approval, so it's gonna go out to bid, shovels in the ground.
Just, Councilman, thank you for your questions. As far as the economic development piece of it that you mentioned with promoting businesses, that's the whole point of the grant, is to attract more tourism dollars to both ends of the trail, especially, and more a little bit here with this, with the improvements proposed. So, I think the Economic Development Director for Newcastle County, CJ Bell, I was in that role when I applied for this grant, and so he would definitely be in touch with the city to see how we can collaborate with the city and the local businesses, because that is the entire point of the grant. So thank you for bringing that up.
Quick question on the artwork or sculpture, whatever you put in the middle. Will we have a chance to review that before it's decided on?
Yes, so, great question, thank you, Councilmember. The city actually the county, in parallel to designing the conceptual project, started a call for artists. We worked with the Delaware Art Museum as our artistic consultant. They put together a package which was already it's called Call for Artists, as it's like an RFP for artwork, essentially. So there is an artist that has been selected for this particular area. It's the piece of art is supposed to be a very large sculpture depicting something in nature. It itself has not been designed yet, so once these artists are all informed that they have been selected through this process, I'm sure there'll be some type of a viewing or ability to weigh in on what the design is. But the artists themselves, we hope, this was done almost 2 years ago, so we're hoping that they're still on board, but they have been selected at this point. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? From council, I'm sorry, Dr. Padilla, your public comment's over. Any other comments or questions? Are we ready to vote on this? Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
A second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the motion to, the resolution to change the date of next month's meeting. I will read that resolution. Resolution number 2024-26, a resolution approving the postponement of the September council meeting to the third Tuesday in September. Whereas the city of Newcastle typically holds its city council meetings on the second Tuesday of each month, typically held at the Newcastle Senior Center. And whereas in the month of September 2024, the meeting date is scheduled for September 10th, 2024, which is Delaware's primary election day. And whereas the Newcastle Senior Center is a polling location for Delaware's primary election day and is unavailable to accommodate a city council meeting. And whereas the Newcastle City Council meeting will need to be postponed until a later date in September to uphold the Newcastle City Charter Section 13, which states the council shall meet for the transaction of business no less than monthly at such times as said council may determine, and a majority of the whole number of members constitutes a quorum to do business. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby approves holding the September 2024 City Council meeting on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 at the Newcastle Senior Center. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect August 13th, 2024. Any comments or questions?
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved. So the next item is a resolution appointing Angel Ramos to the Board of Adjustment. I'll read that resolution. Resolution 2024-27, a resolution to appoint Angel Ramos to the Board of Adjustment. Whereas the City Council adopted Ordinance 534 at its March 8, 2022 council meeting, and whereas the purpose of Ordinance 534 included reconstituting the city's Board of Adjustment as a 5-member board composed of the mayor as chairperson and 4 city residents appointed by City Council, and whereas there is currently 1 vacated seat for the Board of Adjustment with its term ending on April 12, 2026. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the City Council hereby approves and appoints Angel Ramos to fill the unexpired term of Dennis Anasmuski, Angel Ramos, Board of Adjustment, term ending April 12, 2026. Mr. Ramos is here. Do you have anything to say?
My name's Angel Ramos. You guys have known me. I've been here for 20 years or more, part of the city. I want to thank the council for selecting me and appointing me for this position. I'll do the best of my job to fill the position and do right for the city. Thank you again, council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Congratulations, Mr. Ramos.
Thank you, council.
Thank you for serving. Next. Rosa. My page is stuck together. Next is a resolution 2024-28, a resolution approving the mayor's appointment to the Planning Commission of Tamara Stoner. Whereas the Newcastle City Code provides that the mayor of the city of Newcastle appoint 9 members to the Planning Commission, subject to confirmation by City Council, each for a 3-year term. And whereas Ms. Stoner's term on the Planning Commission expires August 14th, 2024, and whereas Ms. Stoner is willing to serve another term, and whereas the City Council proposes to confirm the appointment of Tamara Stoner to another term on the Planning Commission, with this term ending on August 14th, 2027. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby appoints the following person to the Planning Commission: Tamara Stoner, Planning Commission, term ending August 14th, 2027. I don't think I see Ms. Stoner. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. And the next is an reappointment to the Board of Health. Resolution 2024-29, a resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Mary Tish Gallagher to the Board of Health. Whereas the Newcastle City Code provides that the mayor of Newcastle appoints 6 members to the Board of Health, subject to confirmation by City Council for 2-year terms. And whereas there's currently 1 position eligible for appointment on the Board of Health, and whereas the City Council proposes to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Mary Tish Gallagher to the Board of Health for a 2-year term ending on September the 11th, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby confirms the appointment of the following person to the Board of Health: Mary Tish Gallagher, Board of Health, term ending September 11th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion approved. Is another Board of Health appointment, this one a new appointment, Resolution 2024-33, a resolution confirming the mayor's appointment of Jamie Lee Mayuski to the Board of Health, whereas the Newcastle Code provides that the mayor of Newcastle appoints 6 members to the Board of Health, subject to confirmation by City Council for 2-year terms, and whereas there's currently 1 position eligible for appointment on the Board of Health, and whereas the City Council proposes to confirm the mayor's appointment of Jamie Lee Mayuski to the Board of Health for a 2-year term ending September 11th, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby confirms the appointment of the following person to the Board of Health: Jamie Lee Mayuski, term ending September 11th, 2026. Ms. Mayuski, did you want to say anything?
Thank you, council, for the appointment. Liz don't know me. I've lived in the town my entire life. I'm currently a nationally registered paramedic for the county, so I'm looking forward to being productive on Monday.
Thank you.
Motion approved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution approved. Okay, I think we have one more appointment. For 2 people this time. Resolution 2024-30, a resolution to reappoint 2 persons to the Flood Resiliency Committee. Whereas the Newcastle City Council established the Sea Level Rise Task Force by Resolution 2022-04, and whereas Resolution 2023-32 converted that task force to a permanent committee known as the Flood Resiliency Committee, and whereas Resolution 2023-32 also established a staggered schedule of expiration of the terms of the current members of the task force, and whereas the terms of Mary Tish Gallagher and Timothy Moore expired June 20th, 2024, and they are willing to be reappointed, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby reappoints the following persons to the Flood Resiliency Committee: Mary Tish Gallagher, Flood Resiliency, term ending June 30, 2027, and Timothy Moore, Flood Resiliency Committee, term ending June 30, 2027.
Motion approved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. All right, the next item is not a formal resolution, it's a discussion of the possibility of adding steep speed bumps on East 3rd and East 4th Street, as several residents requested. Unfortunately, none of them were able to be here tonight. I gather their primary reason for the request is that they think people drive too fast on those streets. We've had discussions before council on this issue before as it relates to 3rd Street a couple of years ago. My memory is there were potential issues involved, including the access by emergency vehicles, but the speed bumps would slow them down, which might be a problem in an event of a fire. And I seem to remember our mayor, who's also a paramedic, commenting that it's hard enough to install an IV line in a moving vehicle, but it's even worse if you've got a speed bump to deal with that. So those are potential problems. I've also some of the residents said speed bumps are noisy because when the cars hit them, they make noise. But we're here to discuss, have we changed our mind about this? I think the chief of police may have some thoughts, and perhaps Chief Mayuski as well, I don't know. So, Chief McCabe, Mr. Bergstrom, look like you.
Snow plowing on a street like that is extremely difficult. When you've got just barely enough width of the plow blade, you're always skewed when you're plowing on a speed bump. It's not really the best idea.
Okay. While Chief McCabe is getting ready, I don't know, Mr. Miller brought up the point, well, why do they have them in some places and not others? And I don't know, not being able to read the minds of the councils or the governing bodies of those other locations. Some of them are neighborhoods in the unincorporated parts of the county, so I guess their homeowners association decides, I don't know. But at any rate, Chief McCabe, do you have some thoughts on this?
Sure, and I can help with some of that too. The temporary speed bump years ago was placed on 8th Street and it was left there. It was done for a reason because we were able to, after a study there, we confirmed there was a speeding problem. So northbound traffic during morning rush hour would cut through 8th Street. They would run through stop signs and there was a speed issue. So we definitely had that issue. The speed bump wasn't something that we supported because of the reasons you're describing, but we definitely needed some kind of a traffic calming device there. So the issue that we have with 3rd and 4th Street is that and right now we're in the middle of the study on 4th Street. So at this point, I think we've clocked over 150 cars over the last 10 days or so, and I've asked our folks to run some radar whenever they have an opportunity to do this at various times during the day and get you the results. So as it stands right now, with over 150 cars clocked, the average speed with a couple of 30-mile-an-hour outliers, it's 2 out of the 150 cars. The average speed is 19 miles an hour. So my thought process is I'm not a fan of creating solutions for a problem that doesn't exist. That doesn't say that residents aren't seeing things that they don't like. There is a volume issue here. We've had a volume issue here for years. We've talked about it, and I get that. I also, and I've said this on some one-on-one conversations with folks, and it's been kind of productive when they meet us personally. What you think is speed is not always speed, and we show them sometimes, and we've offered for some of the residents to stand on 3rd Street, clock with them, just so they can get a feel for what the actual speed looks like. So it's not to say that from time to time they're not going to see that 30-mile-an-hour car that we saw. So that's really the issue. The other thing that's always put this kind of initiative to a halt is we're chasing the issue from one street to the next. So if we take care of 3rd Street, then they're going to use 5th Street. If we take care of 4th Street, then they're going to use another street. So the problem is, and then now they're all going to ask for speed bumps. So I can't imagine having a city with a bunch of speed bumps. And I can tell you just from my own experience talking to residents, most folks don't support this idea because of the noise. And then lastly, I want to clarify the equipment part of this. Our officers are they patrol this city on a regular basis. We average somewhere between 70 to 80 miles a shift. Now imagine that in a 3.1 square mile city. That's a lot of driving. So to the neighborhoods in North Wilmington that have it, what they don't have is constant police presence. This will deter us from making that trip 5-6 times a shift. Yes, it will do damage to our car, and yes, it's inconvenient. So there's just a lot of reasons why this isn't a good idea, but that doesn't mean we have to stop the discussion. So I'd love to meet with the residents that are witnessing these issues and see if we can't resolve it that way. And I'm going to continue with this. I gave our folks till the 18th to collect data. So, but I think after clocking 150 cars, I think we have enough sample size to say that I really don't know that we have the issue. So,
Thank you, Chief. Oh, sure.
Yep. So I'm glad to hear the chiefs talk about study, because in the rest of in the suburbs, DelDOT comes in and does a whole study. They for cars for speeding, for cars over a certain amount of time. It's the lines you see going across the roadways. So really, if we're going to look at speed bumps, I think we have to have a study, and we have to have Public Works involved. We have to have the police involved, and really figure out, if it's something we want to do. I would agree with Jeff Bergstrom. The big effect is on plowing the streets. It's already tight on 3rd Street. To put speed bumps in, I'm sure would affect that. But it's also going to affect the parking. Speed bumps aren't narrow anymore. They're pretty wide. A lot of people don't want to park up on a speed bump because, as far as I know, they're still installing the speed bumps from curb to curb. So it does affect parking, and it'll minimize the amount of parking on the street already. So I believe unless we have some type of formal study that really says we need it, that I don't think I could support just willy-nilly installing speed bumps.
Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Madigan, Mr. Zell?
I would just say that people's safety is paramount, and I appreciate the conversations that the chief and his staff and Public Works and everyone is having, and I just encourage the additional conversations to the residents in that area of town that have concerns. Please, if you haven't, I guess you have in some way voiced them, but please, come to us as a body, come to us individually. We would love to hear from you in this forum, but if you can't, please feel free to send an email or to tag one of us throughout town. Chief, in regards to the study, I'm sure the answer is yes, but I do want to ask the question in respect to the tracking of the speed. Hopefully it's, you know, throughout the day, on weekends, you know, heavy traffic time periods, et cetera, in respect to the study.
Yes, and we are doing everything we can to make it, you know, wide variety. The high volume traffic times is when we definitely don't see the speed issue. We learned that on Third Street. But I will say this, if we're gonna rely on a study, I would recommend that we outsource that. I learned that a long time ago. So, there is a group out there that does this stuff. They can put those cables down, they can collect a lot more data. We are basically running radar and documenting it. So, you know, a more extensive study, I would recommend that if you even consider any kind of traffic calming devices.
And then in closing, I would just say that, you know, heard that, you know, speeding is an issue or concern for residents throughout the city. Please continue to raise them to all of us. And whether it's real or perceived, this is something that we need to try to mitigate and tackle and make people at least feel better about.
So I think I'm reading that the consensus is we're not doing this now. The police are gonna continue their monitoring. We're encouraging anyone who thinks the speed bumps would help to reach out to us so we can hear your side. It's unfortunate that no one was able to be here tonight. And that's
I'll
it
let
for
you know if I get any additional feedback.
Okay, so that's it for now then, right? Chief McCabe, do you have a sense of what the cost of the study, the outsourced study you're talking about? I assume it's so much a week or a month or?
I don't have.
Okay, I just thought you might have an idea. That's all right, thank you.
I actually have one other final thing. I know there's like the speed bumps, but I've also seen, I don't know if I'm making up this term, like the speed dots almost, like whether it's not a formalized bump per se, but it's something that kind of makes people slow down. Again, don't know if that quite fits into our city and what kind of damage that may do to vehicles, et cetera. Perhaps it's less damaging.
Okay, so that's all on this topic for today. And we may or may not be revisiting it depending on what else happens. Is that an accurate summary?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The next item is the discussion and possible vote on the 2024 municipal comprehensive land use plan annual report. This comes to us from the planning commission, is that correct?
Correct.
And so all of us have gotten a copy of it. I don't know if we've had an opportunity to read it. Mr. Rogers, would you prepared to either offer any explanation or entertain questions or?
Yes, just briefly, this is a report that's required from the state by state law through the Office of State Planning Coordination. It was due in July, but due to a quorum issue, the Planning Commission didn't have a meeting in July. So it's before you now in August for your consideration. Just briefly, the numbers and the text that are not italics after the numbers are the questions provided by the state. So the State Office of Planning provides this questionnaire to fill out by the local municipalities to give an update on how your comprehensive plan is being implemented each year. So the numeric, non-italics text are the questions from the state. The black italics under number 1 are goals that are in your existing comprehensive plan, and the red italics is how we answered them. This was before the Planning Commission.
July.
In July, it was the June meeting that was canceled because of the quorum. So this was approved by the Planning Commission in July. The red italics is how we answered the questions and provided the status of the various goals. This very much follows the format and content from last year's report with updates as necessary. So I'll just answer any questions you have instead of going through each, unless.
No, I don't see any need to go through each point unless someone has questions. And so the planning commission's already approved and submitted this, or did they need an action from us to submit it?
Tradition here in Newcastle is that the planning commission approves it, it comes to council. If you approve it, it gets signed by the mayor and sent to the office of state planning.
So we need to take a vote on it?
Yes.
All right, any questions for Mr. Rogers? Do I hear a motion to approve this report?
Motion to approve.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Report's approved. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Okay, and the final item is a resolution to extend the existing outreach coordinator position through September. This is a little confusing because we had a resolution to extend it through August, and then during our budget discussions, we decided that an additional month was warranted to let the outreach coordinator continue his work and promote the events that are going to be happening in the city in the fall and winter. And so the money's in the budget to cover this extra month, and we're just formalizing it through this resolution tonight. I'll read the resolution and then we'll see if there are any comments from the council. Resolution 2024-34, a resolution to extend the existing outreach coordinator position through September of 2024. Whereas the City of Newcastle Outreach Coordinator position was extended through August 31st, 2024, pending the passage of the fiscal 25 budget via Resolution 2024-20. And whereas the City of Newcastle fiscal 25 budget was passed via Resolution 2024-22 and included funding for the Outreach Coordinator position through August 31st, 24, and extended funding through September 30th, 2024, as discussed at City Council special budget meetings. Now therefore be it resolved that the contract position Outreach Coordinator shall be extended through September 30th, 2024, as passed in the fiscal year 2025 budget, in order to allow the Outreach Coordinator to finish the remaining work begun in March through September of 2024. The Outreach Coordinator will be compensated in accordance with the passage of the fiscal 2025 budget, and funds budgeted for producing tourism-related materials may be used more broadly for direct expenses related to promoting and supporting Newcastle, including design, technical, advertising, subscription and membership fees, printing, setup costs, etc. That the Outreach Coordinator will continue to report to the mayor for the remainder of the contract term ending on September 30th, 2024. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect August 13th, 2024. So is there any discussion of this resolution? No.
So, I have a question to ask John, and then I'll come back here. John, what do you anticipate the market on the green going through, October or?
October 12th at this point, yeah. So that would be, I guess, 2 weekends or something like that.
So how would you prefer that they handle the market if this is their event that's been going on and is very successful?
Very successful. Well, I mean, it'd be 2 more weeks, right? So half of,
Well, that, yeah.
of the monthly. Well, no, it's a flat fee for the whole. Did we reconfigure it so it's not?
I don't think it's, I think you could coordinate it, I don't know why you couldn't, but maybe Antonina or Max.
We could prorate it, we didn't budget for that specifically, I mean, we could reallocate marketing expenditures to this expense.
We have other money allocated to marketing that.
For the outreach coordinator marketing expenditures, yes.
Oh, in other words, we'd just be shifting the money from the marketing activities to compensating the coordinator.
Yes.
So it's, the total wouldn't change. It's just shifting it from one pocket to the other, so to speak. Well, is there a motion then to amend this resolution to extend the contract through October 12th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of, now this is of the modification, of the amendment.
Yes.
So all in favor of amending the resolution to extend the contract through October 12th? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we've amended it, and now we'll vote on the amended resolution.
Motion to approve.
And-
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That's it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? A second?
Second.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.